Welcome to MTN Outdoors.
Hi there, I'm John Riley and I'll be your guide for this episode of MTN Outdoors. We've got a great one for you today. From bear safety with FWP to learning about some of the search and rescue missions that have been conducted in Montana recently. But there's an old saying, April showers delay fire season a little bit longer. And in eastern Montana, there's actually an unseen fire threat that many people don't think of. Coal seam fires burning just below the ground. MTN's Russ Riesinger reports on how Montana is making it a priority to address these unseen threats.
Well, what really sparked my interest was the fact that every summer we burn thousands of acres due to coal seam fires in eastern Montana.
You can't always see them with the naked eye, but in this part of Rosebud County, the scars of coal seam fires that burned in the past are all over the place.
Dead and down everywhere. It's a mess.
I'm getting a first-hand look from two guys who know all about the problem. Rodney Dresbach is the fire chief for Rosebud County, and Corey Chagas is the fire chief for neighboring Custer County.
These coal seams right here, they cause wildland fires, and they just keep going and keep burning, and which causes more wildland fires.
For the past 3 years, Chagas has been on a mission, pinpointing GPS coordinates of hot spots from the air, then hiking into those areas to see if they are indeed coal seam fires.
How many have you mapped already in this area?
We have over 700 coal seams mapped in eastern Montana. That's Bighorn, Custer, Rosebud, and the Northern Cheyenne tribe. Oh, did you hear it flare up there? Caught some oxygen and it flared up. Did you hear it?
Yeah.
The fires can burn for years underground, even decades before flaring up.
We expect the lightning storms, we expect the human-caused ones, but the coal seams are our wild card.
Coal seams are one of the main causes of wildland fires in this part of the state, including the Richard Spring Fire in 2021 that burned more than 170,000 acres.
And so it becomes this challenge on how are we going to keep addressing this. We're starting to see this 365 instead of April through end of September. It's becoming that kind of a challenge.
The state is requesting $10 million from the EPA for more mapping as well as specialized equipment, techniques, and projects necessary to mitigate and extinguish actively burning coal seams in Montana. It would come from money set aside by the Biden administration to reduce greenhouse emissions. Mark Bostrom is the administrator for the Conservation and Resource Development Division of the DNRC, which would act as the lead.
It really adds up quickly as far as the CO2 emission. It's not scrubbed. It's not like, the power plants that have, some kind of an abatement system on them. It's burning raw coal out in the environment. So I think it's a pretty good measure. I hope EPA agrees and awards us a grant.
Something these two firefighting veterans say would be a step in the right direction.
This is something that needs to be done, and I think all of us working together, all the counties and the tribes in the state of Montana, we could make a positive impact to eastern Montana.
In Rosebud County, Russ Riesinger, MTN News.
Now, spring is a great time to get outdoors and see some birds or run into some bears. MTN's Chet Lehman spoke with FWP about why we should always be bear aware when we're outside.
Winter was slow coming to Montana, but it did come, and bears do what bears do. That's coming to an end. March is fairly typical for the end of hibernation. That means they're going to be once again on the landscape, and they're going to be hungry. That means we need to stay out of their way.
There's two reasons why we talk about bear safety so much. The number one reason is human safety. We want people to be safe and we want their communities to be safe. The number two reason is for healthy bear populations. We want to encourage healthy bear behavior by removing attractants in anthropogenic food sources from the reach of bears. So
bear spray, traveling in groups and making noise, and removing food from the landscape is part of our role in that. Also, recognizing natural food sources when out can go a long way to keeping yourself and bears safe.
We had a very mild winter this past winter, and so we're not expecting to see a lot of animal carcasses on the landscape, but if you do encounter some of those, make sure you avoid them.
That also means removing man-made food sources, extra important, because there will not be as much easy carcass meals as in springs past. so the hunt for food will be elsewhere. FWP says recognizing everything west of Billings in Montana is bear country, and we need to respect that fact.
By being bear aware, you're keeping you and your family, your community safer, and you're also helping foster good behavior, good healthy wild natural behavior with bears.
So go out and have fun. But remember, while we consider this our playground, the bears consider this home. Near Bozeman, Chet Lehman, MTN News.
It's no secret that first responder agencies in Montana have limited resources, especially when it comes to search and rescue. MTN's Cassidy Powers has more on what happens when those resources are called to two different emergencies at the same time.
I'm here at the College M Trail where last night search and rescue had to save a man via helicopter after he got lost just below Baldy Peak. But what happens when search and rescue gets another call at the same time?
So we were doing a public safety academy last night, and search and rescue was doing it at the SAR building when these calls came out.
Matt Boxmeyer is the search and rescue commander. He tells me around 6 p.m. Tuesday night, the first call came in. An elderly woman with dementia had gone for a walk and not returned home. Gallatin County Sheriff's Search and Rescue, or SAR, began an urban search.
We paged out the volunteers and we got a drone team, our Valley search and rescue team, and then the dog team.
As the search and rescue units were working hard on one mission, they got a call for another rescue around 8 p.m. A hiker had gotten lost just below Baldy Peak in the Bridger Mountains.
They'd gone down a separate ridge and kind of got into a lot of snow. They weren't prepared for the conditions. They were wearing shorts.
Search and rescue was able to locate the man quickly, but took about 6 hours to remove him from the mountain. Due to hypothermia risk, the decision was made to transport the patient via helicopter, which flew down from Kalispell. Fortunately, both people were located and brought home safely. But how did search and rescue manage both missions at the same time?
And our search and rescue building, our comms team, we have two of everything, and so they were able to pull the maps up and start the second search.
Boxmeyer tells me search and rescue has enough volunteers and teams to pursue at least 4 rescues at a time, although it is rare to see even 2 occur at once.
There's multiple times we get more than 1 in a day, but we haven't, in a while, I don't think we've had 2 happening at the exact same time.
It's been over a year since the last dual search and rescue has occurred in the Gallatin Valley. Boxmeyer says he hopes it'll remain an infrequent occurrence.
No, just make sure you know, if you're going into the backcountry, be prepared. Obviously take clothing. Yesterday was warm and we're starting to see warm days. And as we start seeing warm days, people are more likely to leave the jacket in the car.
In Bozeman, Cassidy Powers, MTN News.
Nearly 2 years after Mike Kinsey's Park City home was washed away in the June 2022 historic floods, volunteers are coming to the rescue, physically picking up Kinsey's garage, moving it away from the floodplain and out of danger of a repeat incident.
I've lived here since 1977 and I want to be home. And my kids want to be home. Everybody wants to be home.
For the past 2 years, Mike Kinsey has been living out of his trailer.
How have things been going since then?
Slow.
The 76-year-old Army veteran had his life turned upside down in 2022 after the historic June flood ripped away his Park City home, and all he could do was watch. He took this video with his cell phone that ended up going viral worldwide.
I have friends who are from Sweden, and they saw me on the news in Sweden. Can you imagine?
Since then, it's been a waiting game, as he was seemingly left to deal with the damage on his own, hoping to eventually rebuild.
That's my goal, is to be able to put some sort of either a modular house or a built house.
But his garage remained on the floodplain, and before Kinsey could even think about a home rebuild, he knew the garage had to be moved. Luckily, he made friends with the right people at the right time.
Nelson was working on that red and black barn right there. And I was driving out of my yard and he waved at me. Him and his son came up and introduced themselves. And I said, "You probably saw me on the news." And he said, "I've never watched the news." I'm like, okay.
Nelson Troyer, an Amish man, didn't hesitate to help out. Troyer planned the move with Kinsey, recruited the volunteers, and made it all happen.
Saw it on Facebook, and it said to call Nelson. He said there were going to be 70 Amish, and they wanted 70 non-Amish. So I said, well, we're non-Amish.
On Saturday, more than 100 volunteers showed up on Kinsey's property, ready to lend a helping hand. Dropped off by the busload to move Kinsey's garage with sheer strength.
if we're going to move a building, like with manpower.
Seriously, what a great story, right?
He was overcome with emotion when the move was complete.
Not enough meaning to express my gratitude to each and every individual that came here today to help me.
The day ended in song before a silent prayer and lunch. Kinsey is now looking to the future, once again hopeful, but will never forget the kindness he was shown by these volunteers.
It's hard to express. I can't, and especially considering the conditions, just gratitude, overwhelming gratitude. I couldn't be more thankful.
In Park City, Kelsey Boggs, MTN News.
Coming up after the break, we have an update on Flathead Lake levels and the objectively best water in Montana. But first, it's time for some trivia. Water that falls in Montana will eventually flow into one of 3 oceans. But do you know what is the name of the geographical feature that separates the 3 major water basins? That answer coming up after the break. Welcome back. So do you know what is the name of the geographical feature that separates Montana's 3 major water basins? Located in the Lewis Range of northwestern Montana, the rain that falls on Triple Divide Peak flows into the Atlantic Ocean, Pacific Ocean, and Hudson Bay, depending on where the rain falls on the mountain. It is the hydrological apex of North America. There's a saying, whiskey's for drinking and water's for fighting. There's been a lot of debate around the water of Flathead Lake, as James Dobson reports.
It's raining pretty hard here in Polson right now on the beautiful shore of Flathead Lake, and that's exactly what people here want to see. That's because the Energy Keepers Incorporated recently have been working with the Army Corps of Engineers to make sure that we reach full pool here this spring and still stay safe with the spring runoff.
I didn't always live here, but the lake always brought me back.
Walking along the shore of the lake, Robert McDonald, communicator for Energy Keepers, told me that the company plans to keep the lake fuller for longer this year. Each spring, EKI uses the SKQ Dam to drain Flathead Lake, lowering it 10 feet below full pool. They do this so that the lake can catch all the spring runoff without flooding. This year, though, they're doing something different.
Given the conditions that we're forecasting potentially a second drought year, we asked, can we lower it 8 feet?
The Army Corps of Engineers, looking at the same data, agreed, and McDonald gives this advice for people planning their summer.
Expect the best, prepare for the worst, but flexibility, I think, is the key word. Be ready to adjust, be ready to adapt to the conditions.
The inflows into Flathead Lake last year was some of the driest in the history of the lake, and forecasts show this year might be a similar story. As we chatted in the rain, the irony wasn't lost on McDonald.
Thank you. An answer. The answer I wanted. More snow hopefully on Monday.
To see the information for yourself on how the lake levels are doing, visit this story on our website. In Polson, James Dobson, MTN News.
I'm here in Eastgate, where this water right here was voted to be the best in all of Montana in 2024. That's water. Do you agree with the judges?
Oh yeah, that's why I entered it. Because I knew it was, you know, like I say, I lived here for 20 years and I never had a bit of problem with it. I liked it. So I said, what the heck, why not enter it?
Over March 20th through the 22nd, the Montana Rural Water Systems Technical Conference and Exhibition took place in Great Falls. During that conference, about 15 water samples were judged blindly for the best water in Montana. We all know that water should be tasteless, odorless, colorless, and clear. Eastgate received the top scores for being just that. This was the first year that Eastgate submitted their water sample. Water is vital to the health of any community. According to DEQ, around 86% of Montanans get their water from public water systems. These public water systems and their waterworks operators are the first line of defense against contaminants getting into the water supplies and threatening public health. This well water fills the cups, pots, tubs, and washers of over 600 homes in the Eastgate community near East Helena. Anna Miller works for the DNRC and was one of the judges at the conference. She says that those who help provide quality water to communities throughout the state work hard to do so. and that this competition is a fun way to celebrate that work.
These folks come together and they work very hard to make sure that the water is safe and they have good quality and quantity of water as their needs provide. And it's just one of those little extra things as they work hard to kind of celebrate the good things that they do.
Next up, Eastgate's water will go up against other competing states in a national competition for best water in the U.S.
Reporting in Eastgate, Tom Buchanan, MTN News.
It's being proposed that the best place to dispose the tons of toxic material that'll be removed in Butte Superfund cleanup should be the most toxic place in Butte, the Berkeley Pit.
We've got to take this waste somewhere, and so we want to put it in the most appropriate site for the community that's most protective of the health of our citizens and the environment.
Atlantic Richfield BP recently released an analysis that determined the pit is the preferred site for the repository for most of the toxic material that'll be removed in the cleanup area running through the center of Butte. Because not all the material can go in the pit, other repository sites will have to be determined somewhere in Butte.
The cleanup of the corridor is right in the middle of town. There is going to have to be truck traffic that is going to take some of the materials to different repository sites.
Using the pit is good news for people who were concerned that the repository site was going to be next to historic neighborhoods in Uptown Butte. Several citizens spoke out last year against putting the dump site near the Centerville neighborhood.
I honestly believe that if we didn't step up and fight this, we just would have saw dump trucks pulling up here this summer, dumping stuff in the Dublin Gulch.
The proposal also states that materials taken to the pit will be made into a slurry and pumped there through pipes, so it won't have to be taken by haul trucks. Officials with Montana Resources say they have the capacity and the resources to pump and deposit the waste material in the pit.
I feel very good about the direction we're going, and so we feel optimistic about the path forward.
More public meetings on this matter will be announced later. The EPA will ultimately decide on the repository sites. In Butte, John Amy, MTN News.
Coming up after the break, we turn to ag with Future Farmers of America and the importance of rodeo to members of the Blackfeet Nation.
We now return to MTN Outdoors.
Welcome back. Rodeo is a pillar of many Montana communities, and the Blackfeet Nation is no exception. MTN's Brianna Juneau has more on the passion and artistry being represented for the sport in Browning.
Amidst the dust and adrenaline, the young cowboys and cowgirls, a part of the Browning Okotopi Rodeo Club, harness their skills, teamwork, and passion, and the artistry for the sport of rodeo.
We have what's called the Okotopi Rodeo Club. Okotopi means to ride in Blackfeet. And so we want to encompass not just the rodeo kids, but everybody on the reservation and Browning High School and the middle school that like to ride horses, whether it's Indian relay, barrel racing, roping, riding bulls.
Under the guidance of Coach Jimmy Champ, the Rodeo Club provides both an in-school and after-school activity for middle school and high school students, both new to the sport.
I started rodeoing my junior year, so last year.
And season.
I've been rodeoing since I was like a little kid.
Since I was 3.
I've been rodeoing since I was about 7 or 8.
Both the Rodeo Club and the rodeo team blaze a trail of excitement for eager students embracing the thrills of rodeo sports, giving each a chance to compete around the state and up to a national level.
During the school day, we practice. After their schoolwork is done, the rope and dummies are out, the bucket machine's out, and so practices are all day, every day during class.
It's been nice because it's just like it's an area that we can just hang out and like make each other better as well as making ourselves better.
It's really nice in this building to have like so many dummies and equipment here. The adrenaline rush and trying to get better and focusing on yourself is really good, and I like that about it.
The Rodeo Club provides an exciting chance to lay the groundwork for future careers or scholarships.
Jimmy Champ's been helping me out a lot, setting me up for when I go to college this fall.
Yeah, that's something I do in college and just keep doing it as I go on.
I'm glad they're here to teach me. I could learn a lot from them. I hope to keep doing bareback and saddle bronc and roping for as long as I can.
For more information about how to support the rodeo athletes, visit our website.
Ann Browning, Pita Sapuaki, Brianna Juno, MTN News.
And a volunteer came up and said, you know those kids that wear the blue jackets? And I said, we sure do. That's the FFA. And he says, they are the most well-behaved, most interesting kids.
Many might assume that the future farmers of America's sole focus would be agriculture.
These kids have a huge task ahead of them in an industry that is continually shrinking in numbers and acres, but increasing on what we produce.
But agriculture insists upon a blend of many different fields.
You've got to be a scientist and a chemist. You've got to be an administrator and a bookkeeper. You have to have skills in leadership.
Making the development of a well-rounded individual the true aim of the FFA, something actualized at Montana's state competition for the nonprofit.
There is a meats evaluation contest, a livestock judging contest, a mechanics contest, a floriculture contest, and agronomy contest.
We just came from aromas, which we smell things and identify what they are.
There's an undercurrent to these skills, and it can be found front and center in the motto.
Learning to do, doing to learn, earning to live, and living to serve.
We are building a tiny house to help with affordable housing for homeless veterans.
And this project fits our model perfectly. You know, students are learning all of the different trades that go into a construction project. Once that's done, they're serving our communities.
Trades, skills, service, these come together to be more cherished than mere extracurriculars.
It was a gift from my dad 3 years ago before he passed away.
Tribute to culture preserved across generations.
Agriculture has just been my beginning, my middle, and probably my end.
Marcus Kukova, MTN News.
Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode of MTN Outdoors. Thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, stay safe out there, and we'll catch you later.